So many people say that the Old Testament is not relevant today, and I say that's absolutely not true. I believe that every principle that God teaches in the New Testament is illustrated through the events of the Old Testament. I believe that God deliberately built upon the Old Testament to demonstrate and to illustrate the principles which he teaches in the New Testament. And I think there's no better example than today's lesson on the book of Job. And we're going to continue to study Job over the next several days. But I want you to see how they relate to one another, particularly in this verse. For example, in 1 Peter 5:8, it says, "Be of sober spirit, be on alert. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour." In today's verses from the book of Job, we find clearly Satan is now appearing to God a second time. You can find that in chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. And you'll find that once again, he has been roaming around the earth, just as the New Testament says that's exactly what he does, seeking someone to devour. Now, unfortunately, here God suggests once again to Job, to Satan about Job, and says, "Have you considered my servant Job?" It's almost a direct repeat of chapter 1, verse 8. And again, Satan tests God, and he says, of course he's going to protect you from everything. Why wouldn't Job follow and believe in you? But let it be skin for skin, and then we'll see how Job does. And once again, God says, "I'll allow you to touch him, but you cannot take his life." I think that's very significant. You can touch him, you can cause sickness, but you're not going to be able to take his life. God restricts what Satan can do to us. So we see the sickness here, and we see that Satan creates boils, painful boils, if you've ever had a boil, or very similar is a burn that festers up and gets fluid in it. Just a small one would really bother you a lot. Matter of fact, so much so that you probably would take a pin after sterilizing it and pop the bubble so that the pain would be somewhat less. Nevertheless, it tells us here in the scripture that Job is smote with boils from the top of his head down to the bottom of his feet. Imagine having that all over your body. Now, I visited Tampa General Hospital in the burn unit, and I've seen people that have been burned from the top of their head to the tips of their toes, and seen the agony and the pain that they were in. So much so that many times morphine has to be administered, or they have to be put into a coma while they treat the person for this extreme pain. Job's pain is so great that he has to scrape his body to break these boils, if you will. And even then, of course, the skin is so sensitive and so painful that he is just absolutely miserable. Now, we've seen the sickness. The sickness is boils from head to toe. We've seen the amount of pain that's involved. And now we see the spouse, Job's wife, bless her heart. Let's take a look and see what she had to say to Job. Then his wife said to him, "Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die." Well, how would you like to have a mate like that? There you are in all of that pain. There you are with all of those losses that you've experienced. And your mate says to you, "Why don't you just curse God and die?" That's quite a statement on her part. It real certainly didn't help the pain that he was already in. But yet, let's take a look and see how Job responded to his wife. But he said to her, "You speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept the good from God and not accept adversity?" In all of this, Job did not sin with his lips. I love the integrity of Scripture. It says he didn't sin with his lips. That doesn't mean he didn't think, I'd like to kill that old bat. I mean, well, maybe not that, but certainly he could have had some pretty evil thoughts towards his wife's comforting him with such words. Nevertheless, here we find a spiritual, wonderful response from my husband, who has just been insulted and hurt and injured by his wife's words. What are the ways that we can apply this to our lives today? Well, first of all, we need to be sure that we know that Satan is out to devour anyone that he can. And I think he particularly likes to go after Christians. So remember that Satan's out to get you. You're going to have to be on guard. You're going to have to be ready. Secondly, God knows you. God knew Job, and he knew even though Job was possibly going to experience some extreme pain, he still was going to be able to control himself and not curse God. Thirdly, we need to be sure that we know that we're not immune from sickness. We're not immune from pain. I'll go back to my John 16:33. In the world you'll have trouble, but in me you can have a peace in the midst of that trouble because I've overcome the world. That's what Jesus said. And then we have our mates need to really understand empathy and need to guard their words. And we need to have empathy and guard our words when we deal with our mates. It's very, very important if we really love someone to be sure that we have empathy, to be sure that we don't add to the injury they're already experiencing when they're going through difficult times. And finally, Job taught through his comments back to his wife spiritually. He said, don't be as women who are foolish, but remember, God is sovereign. Remember that God is God, and should we not receive the bad with the good? Wonderful spiritual lesson for his wife. So Job, instead of elevating the conflict between he and his wife, actually tried to teach her spiritually. What a wonderful example for all of us who get into little rows with our mates. And instead of elevating it, we try to teach spiritually through it, not condescending, looking down our nose spiritually at our mates, but trying to help them, trying to teach them what God would have us to learn. And that's my thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day. You may have to think about this one a little while longer.